Throughout the history, we have seen language has played a very important part. Creation of France, establishment of France as a separate nation is based on language. It is a linguistic nation, and most of the European countries, especially the Western European countries, are based on their language, linguistic nations. In India, states have been reorganized on linguistic basis. The first state to emerge as a linguistic state is Andhra Pradesh. We lost Potti Sriramulu. He went on a fast unto death. He died fast. Later the States Reorganization Commission was formed, and based on it states were reorganized. So language is something politics, it's emotional, something concerned with culture. It has a lot of effect on everyday life of an individual. Language is also a dignity of a human being. He feels proud, he or she feels proud to say that he belongs to a particular language speaking group. India is a land of hundreds of languages. There are many languages spoken by the people. Some have dialects, some are spoken, some have rich literature, some are classical, but all languages are languages. Working class people wish to converse in their own language, and any language you will find that words are formed based on the nature of work they do. So it is the working class people who have enriched the language. Post independence, we saw slowly Hindustani language, which had been a common language spoken by many people, which had been the official language of the last of the rulers, Mughal rulers, was slowly replaced by Hindi. The British used the divide and rule policy after the 1857 Great Rising in India. The British wanted to split the people on religious basis. Hindi emerged due to the mixture of Sanskrit and Hindustani. It's a mixture of Sanskrit and Hindustani which saw the growth of Hindi. Sanskrit with Hindustani, which became Hindi, was identified with Hindu. Persian mixed with Hindustani saw the emergence of Urdu, which was identified with Islam. But originally Islam doesn't have Urdu. It's Arabic and Persian. Urdu has nothing to do with Islam. That is why when Pakistan was created, when East Bengal was part of Pakistan, when Pakistani government accepted Urdu as their language, the people of East Bengal, which is part of Pakistan, protested and they said, we are Bengalis. That struggle, in which the 4 students were shot dead, saw the emergence of a separate nation called Bangladesh. In India, post-independence, when importance was started giving Hindi, many of the North Indian languages lost their significance. Their places were occupied by Hindi. Today we say Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Himachal Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, all these states as Hindi belt. Please go to the people of Uttar Pradesh, please go to the people of Bihar and Madhya Pradesh and tell them this is Hindi place. See their response. Do they accept that? What about Awadhi? What about Bhojpuri? Bihari people are very proud to say we are Biharis. We have a language of our own. That is gold language. If you go to the Himalayan, the northeastern parts of India, you will find people speaking different languages. Kasi, Garo, Bodo, many languages. But how did people start identifying many of the North Indian states as a Hindi belt? It is not at all an Hindi belt. So Hindi has swallowed many North Indian languages. Now the people of Gujarat, people of Maharashtra are feeling very sorry that their language is losing their importance. When you talk about Bombay, Mumbai, film industry, Bollywood, you only talk about Hindi films, you don't talk about Marathi films. There are very famous Marathi films, but you are not identifying Bombay film industry with Marathi. Bombay film industry is being identified with Hindi. So the Marathi people have a fear that one day they will lose their significance. Same is with Gujarati. Now, through the National Education Policy 2020, the Union government wants to swallow the rest of the Indian languages. They are pushing Hindi in order that Hindi will swallow the South Indian language, the Kannada, the Telugu, the Malayalam, Tamil, and other languages that are spoken by the people of these states. Now, once all these languages are swallowed by the Hindi, then there is a big whale. Sanskrit is waiting to swallow Hindi. When one could read the National Education Policy 2020, one could really understand that NEP 2020 does not treat language as a language. It does not treat or look at language as a language that may be the medium of education. They are identifying language with culture. It is said language and culture. Under that heading, the language is discussed. They say Sanskrit has contributed to growth of all Indian languages. Sanskrit has contributed to the growth of Indian culture. So, Sanskrit can be taught at all levels in a very excellent way. All facilities will be created for teaching Sanskrit at all levels. The same importance is not given to Hindi. Same importance is not given to Gujarati, Marathi and other languages. Same importance is not given to Bodo, Assamese, other languages spoken by the people of Manipur, Nagaland, Tripura. So you're keeping one language as a superior, hegemony, the linguistic hegemony. Sanskrit is taking the play, they are keeping hegemonically at a higher order. So this is the real threat to the Indian languages. Tamil Nadu is opposing the three-language formula, not because it doesn't like Hindi, not because it doesn't like Sanskrit, just because Hindi should not eat other Indian languages. Sanskrit should not wipe out other Indian languages. Sanskrit should not be the sole language of India. India is a land of diversity. So the government of Tamil Nadu says, we have a formula here which is very scientific. Language through which a child gets introduced to this world is called as mother language, mother tongue. Whatever be the tongue of the mother, through that tongue, the child starts the learning process. When a child comes out of the mother's body, when it enters this world, it is able to hear the sound. Through that sound, the child is able to identify several things. So that is the starting point of the learning process. The child starts learning through the tongue of the mother or the language spoken in the environment. Sometimes mother's language and the language spoken in the environment of the child may be different. Suppose a child is born in an area where there are many people speaking Bhojpuri, then automatically Bhojpuri becomes the language of environment for the child. The child starts the language learning process in Bhojpuri. So when the child is given opportunity to learn in the school in the same language, then the child will feel comfortable. It will be easy for the child to learn. That is why we say mother tongue or language of environment should be the medium of education. In Indian context, in Tamil Nadu, in some other states also, English becomes inevitable because if one wants to take up a job of a delivery boy or delivery girl, your duty is to deliver a parcel. It may be a food parcel, it may be a book parcel, that's all. Even for this delivery work, the question is asked, can you communicate in English? So out of necessity, children are learning English. So the mother tongue or the language of environment, in Tamil Nadu, for that case you may say Tamil, is an actual language, and this language the child is comfortable. The other language is out of necessity. Either the mother tongue and environment which is natural, or the other one as a need, the child is learning. This is the two language formula. The two language formula is a scientific process two language formula is not a linguistic fanatism. It is not just born out of a love towards a language. It's a scientific process that a child learns in the mother tongue or the language of environment, and the other one it learns because of the need or necessity. Now when you ask a child to learn a third language, whatever may be the language, it may be Hindi, it may be Sanskrit, it may be Marathi, it may be Kerala, Malayalam, or it may be Kannada, whatever it may be. This is not the language of environment for a child living in Tamil Nadu. So the child will not be comfortable in that language. So the child needs some certain special attention. It has to put certain special efforts. A child which comes into school to play, to learn several things, is now forced to learn many languages. Just because the child is capable of learning anything. Yes, child is capable of learning anything. But should you test the child to learn a particular language alone? You are talking about number 1, 2, 3. You say 3 language is important. Why 3 language is important? The third language, what the child is forced to learn, may be useful to it or may not be useful to it. You cannot guarantee. Suppose the child goes into Rajasthan, and the people of Rajasthan, they speak different languages. Different tribes have their own languages. Rajasthani is a very important language. Suppose a child enters that area, will a child learning Kannada in Tamil Nadu or Malayalam in Tamil Nadu, in what way it is going to help? So what we say in Tamil Nadu is that the 2 language is a time-tested formula, and this formula is compatible with our children. Don't disturb us. The child can learn any other language at any point of time. In practical, even if you say there are 3 languages, you can take any language as a third language. If you are going to offer only a Hindi teacher, in which language I will be able to learn? I will be forced to learn only in Hindi. Because in 2019, the union budget allotted 50 crore rupees for Hindi. It did not allot a single paisa for any other language. It is said that more than 622 crores was spent on Sanskrit. But for other Indian languages, it's a very, very small amount, a single digit amount. And for many languages, even that was not spent. So their aim is not to develop all the Indian languages as Kothari Commission recommended in 1966. Their aim is to develop Sanskrit as a language of this land so that they may build a Sanskritized monocultural India by destroying the diverse India. The concept of India is unity in diversity. So in Tamil Nadu, we are very clear. We say our language along with Hindi. In Tamil Nadu, we are very clear. Along with Tamil or the child's mother tongue, children learn English. And we don't need any third language. And whatever the language the child wants to learn, all the options will be given to the child to learn at any point of time out of her or his own will, and it will not be part of curriculum or syllabus, and there won't be any compulsion regarding 3 language or 4 language or 5 language. Nothing like that. The 2 language is the best formula that we are following in Tamil Nadu. National Education Policy 2020 was announced during the pandemic. It was announced to the nation through a media conference. It was not announced through the Parliament of India. The NEP 2020 was forced on several states, several universities, and many of its components were implemented in different forms. Even though the present constitutional provisions do not permit the Union of India to take all steps regarding the higher education, especially with regarding to the universities, which is a state subject till date. Important components of NEP is Common University Entrance Test. We can understand from many universities which has forced to adopt the Common University Entrance Test CUET for admission into undergraduate courses, the entire academic calendar was disturbed. Many students were really worth who should have entered into the colleges were not able to enter certain colleges. The academic year did not begin properly. So once the academic year doesn't begin at proper dates, that when the academic calendar collapses, the academic activity also collapses. The second one is the 4-year undergraduate program. The 4-year undergraduate program, the semester system, were all debated. It was argued how it will affect the academic standards. The Delhi University Teachers Association, DUTA, many of the student organizations have opposed the move, both semester as well as 4-year undergraduate program. The multiple exit, multiple entries, the credit system are all aimed to demolish the academic structure that have been built over a period of time. When you look at NEP 2020, when you read the document fully, one could understand that NEP 2020 is anti-national. NEP 2020 is anti-Indian. NEP 2020 is against the spirit, vision and provisions of the Constitution of India, because the constitutional framers had the spirit of the freedom struggle in their heart. We sacrificed Bhagat Singh, Rajaguru, Sukhdev, Chandrasekhar Azad, Vavu Chidambaram and many others in the struggle. Their life, their sacrifices during the freedom struggle was to ensure that the free India will give education as a fundamental right to all its citizens. The government of India, the government of the respective states in India will take the responsibility to provide education. The original Article 45 of the Constitution clearly stated the state shall endeavor. State here means the government. The state shall endeavor to provide education. Article 41 till date in the Constitution of India states, as the economic capacity of the state develops, the state has to give education as a right of the people. It is a duty of the state and right of the people. The constitutional makers were very clear in placing the subjects in the state and the union list. India is a land of diversity, cultural diversity, linguistic diversity. There are different nationalist groups in India. Linguistic nationalist groups are in India. India is the union of all these nationalities. Recognizing this unity in diversity, the Constitution of India, while dividing the subjects between the union and the states, were very clear that the subjects that we deal with the safety and security of the entire India was placed in the hands of the union government. The transportation and other areas which involves the entire India were placed under the union government. The cultural components and immediate needs of the people were placed in the state subject. That is how education was listed as a state subject. Education is part of culture. The learning process differs according to the culture of people. Culture is decided based on the production. Production is decided based on the landform and climate. So the constitutional makers had a clear vision that whatever that people need immediately, that immediate needs can be addressed only by the state government. The cultural components can only be with the state government. That is why education was placed in the state list. But NEP 2020 did not take constitution into consideration. It was not built on the premises of the Constitution of India. NEP 2020 was not built on the premises of Constitution of India. Under Article 246 of the Constitution, under Schedule 7, you have Union List, and entry 44 in the Union List states universities does not come under the Union government. List 2, that is a state list, entry 32 under the state list, list 2 states incorporation, regulation, winding up of universities comes under the state. You will find in 44 in list 1, but not universities. In 32 in list 2, you will find and universities. When you read the constitution, you can understand the difference. And now, education is in the concurrent list, entry 25. 25 in list 2, 25 in list 2 states incorporation, regulation, winding up of universities comes under the state. You will find in 44 in list 1, but not universities. In 32 in list 2, you will find and universities. And now, education is in the concurrent list, entry 25. 25 in list 2, When you are able to read entry 25 of list 3, you will understand subject to the provisions of entry 66 in list 1. So even though education in the concurrent list, it is subject to entry 66 of list 1. When you say subject to entry 66 of list 1, that means entry 66 of list 1 says setting up of standards and coordination of standards in higher education and higher research. So the union government's domain is higher education and higher research, and it is also a recommendatory in nature, and it cannot force anything on universities which are a separate entities established under a state law. So education is not fully with the union government. Education, as far as the school education, as far as the university, regulation of university, administration of university is concerned, it is with the state. The central has no power on that. But the NEP 2020 takes away all the power. It doesn't give any power to the state government. It does not give any independence to the universities. Even though it talks about autonomous character, it is not really an autonomous one. Everything right from admission, how you should admit a child, it is decided by the union government. What should be the course, how should be the course, what should be the entry, how should be the exit, everything is decided by the union government. So where is the real meaning of autonomous being implemented here? That autonomous, the very word autonomous has become meaningless, because in the board of governors there will be corporate representatives. The board of governors, there will be the government representatives. Then what kind of autonomous decision that a university will be able to take? And the entire NEP 2020 aims at literacy, numeracy and occasional skilling. Occasion means job, work. You want to provide certain skills to the individuals so that they may be able to get a job in the job market. You are not allowing a student to learn a particular subject in depth. See, for example, in an undergraduate program, in all the they are making all the undergraduate programs, a general undergraduate program like BA, BCom, BSc, etc., as a 4-year undergraduate program. The 4-year undergraduate program, they say that if a person completes 3rd year and it wants to leave the course, they will give graduation. And even within this 3 year, they say 1 year should be left for apprenticeship. Apprentice is something that has to be given by the industry which absorbs a student. A student of physics will learn physics in depth. A student of physics may enter into an artificial intelligence area, may enter into a heavy vehicles factory, may enter into a bio instrument factory. So wherever that student enters in future or pursues higher education in particular field, in that particular area he may become a master. So if at all a BSc physics student has to be absorbed by a market, by an industry, that industry has to give an apprenticeship. And how can a college give an apprenticeship? Take for example a BCom graduate. A BCom, a commerce graduate gets apprenticeship in an insurance company. Can you guarantee a job in the insurance company? Can you guarantee a job in a bank? If you are not able to guarantee a job in an insurance company, in what way the apprenticeship a student has taken in an insurance company is going to help him to work in some other area? So in the process, you are not allowing the student to learn the subject in depth. The 3 years that has to be allotted for the subject, 1 year you are sending him for a training, and you want to reduce the entire course in 2 years. So what the NEP 2020 visualizes is to give a literacy, that is, a student may have a commerce literacy, a student may have physics literacy, a student may have chemistry literacy, nothing beyond that. So it is only literacy and occasional skilling. So the student will be thrown into the job market as a semi-skilled labor. We have seen in the history that during the 19th century and the 20th century, there was a large scale violation of human rights. The workers were not given any right. Labor was extracted. It was a century-old struggle that the labor were able to establish their rights, the right to form union. was legalized. Their right to strike was legalized. So now the NEP 2020 throws people back into the market like an 18th century, 19th century, 20th century labor as a semi-skilled labor without adequate knowledge in law, in human rights, in constitutional values, and the subject in which the student is supposed to learn. So this is the challenge that NEP 2020 has thrown throughout India, and the academic world, especially the teachers, are facing this crisis. In the name of skilling, many NGOs are entering the colleges, many NGOs are entering the schools. Right from school education up to the universities, we are facing the difficulty where the real academic activity is not able to be fulfilled in accordance to the needs of the academic world. Beyond that, the democratic space is being reduced by the blended learning mode. The students need not come to the school or in the college or university for the through the academic calendar. A portion of the academic calendar they can learn online, so that there will not be a physical contact between a teacher and a student. The blended learning online classes is only an additional burden on the student, and it is not going to really contribute to enrich the knowledge. NEP 2020 stresses an output method instead of input method. Outcome-based education has been tested in few countries and it only met with failure. No success story could be drawn from any of the experience in any part of this world. Outcome-based education drives a student to a market for the Make in India. You will extract the labor, but really the student will not become a fully educated in a particular area. He cannot become a fully learned person in a particular area. Beyond that, on the administrative side, right from the school education up to college education, the NEP 2020 says it will not spend money. Right from 2014, we are seeing the grants have been reduced. Even though they talk about 6% GDP in NEP 2020, we have seen they have not even reached 3% in all these four budgets. It is somewhere between 2 and 3. And whatever was in the revised budget last year, this year we find lesser amount being allotted in many areas in the higher education. When the government is not ready to spend the money, the schools, colleges, the universities are forced to go for corporate social responsibility funding. They are asked to beg with the philanthropists. And why should a student or a youth or a teacher go and beg for philanthropy? If a corporate is having a corpus fund, an excess fund, a surplus fund, that surplus fund should be taxed, and that tax should be spent for the colleges and schools. Instead of taxing the corporates for having surplus, for having generated the surplus fund, you are asking the college or the university to go and beg with the corporates to provide money. And any corporate who gives money to the college or university will have his own vision, his own need to be addressed by the institution. Thereby, the academic freedom will be lost. Right from school education, they say not only about the 3-language formula, they are talking about occasional skilling. The most important is that why should a child be introduced to some kind of a learning at the age of 3? They say it is fun learning. How can it be a fun learning for an agricultural worker's child? How can it be a fun learning for a person who is doing a manual labor, looking at a child also coming and watching the manual labor? Fun learning may be for the elite, fun learning may be for the rich, but what about the majority of the people who are doing the manual work? And the NEP 2020 says, before they complete 8th standard, a child should have a skill in a particular occasion. If a child is able to get a skill in a particular occasion, the child will be pushed into the market. He will be pulled out of the mainstream education. Psychologically, it will have different effect on the child, and especially given the social backwardness, educational backwardness, poverty in the families. Without taking all these things into consideration, they are talking about occasional skilling. And between 9th and 12th, they say that the child has to learn another language. Beyond these 3 languages, the child has to learn a 4th language. And the child has to continue with the vocational skilling, and there will be semester system. And there will be board exams, multiple board exams. Multiple board exams only for the benefit of the market. And finally they say the higher secondary scores will not be taken into consideration for higher education. So for going into higher education, for going into an undergraduate program, the child has to appear university entrance exam, common university entrance exam, and the score of the CUET will be taken for admission into higher education. Thereby, there is no connect between the school education and the college education. So at present, we have a ladder-like structure based on the social justice, where any child, especially in the states like Tamil Nadu, we have a ladder-like structure where the student, when she or he enters a school, will be able to complete the school education. If it is a government school, they need not spend a single paisa. Textbooks are given free of cost, uniform is given free of cost, midday meals are provided. Now even the breakfast is provided. All facilities are provided. Transportation is provided free of cost. And a child can enter into the college, can apply to the college and get admitted. In some cases free of cost, some cases the least of the cost. So now when you ask a child to go to the common entrance exam, to appear for the common entrance exam, naturally you are pushing the child towards the coaching industry. So the parent and student, both of them are going to suffer, as they are already suffering under the national eligibility interest is the need for medical admission. This is going to be for any undergraduate course. So right from school education up to the college education, they want to highly commercialized. Commercial interest is taken into consideration, and great inequality is being thrust upon the people, because within the school education they say there will be Kendra Vidyalayas and there will be PM Street Kendra Vidyalayas. Why do you have two Kendra Vidyalayas? You say all Kendra Vidyalayas are schools of excellence. That should be the union government stand. Union government said selected Kendra Vidyalayas will be PM Street schools. That means both are not equal. When you go to the website of PM Street, you can understand that it says that the schools of excellence, the students who study in the PM Street schools can take up any challenge in higher education. That means you agree the students studying in other schools cannot take up the challenge. Is it not against Article 14 of the Constitution? Is it not against Article 21 of the Constitution? Right to equality and the freedom of life, a life with dignity. That is why we say NEP 2020 is anti-Indian, anti-national, anti-constitutional. Now you are testing the states. In Tamil Nadu we have more than 40,000 schools, state-run schools. When you say the schools under PM Street in Tamil Nadu, the state government has to identify certain hundreds of schools out of the 40,000 schools, and certain hundreds of schools, say 400 or 500 schools, may be called PMC schools. And the children who study in this PMC schools will have all the facilities, but about the rest of the 39,000 schools, they will not have this equal facility. So it is discriminatory practice. We are asking for equitable access to education for all children. That is the dream of freedom movement. That is the vision of the Constitution. That is the provision of the Constitution. But against the vision of the Constitution, you say the states to implement a system which is not equal, which does not give equal access to quality education. So wherever the NEP 2020 is implemented, there the people are struggling, the students are forced into the coaching industry, the parents are spending heavily both for the school education as well as in the coaching centers. In many of the states, when the parent admit their child in a private schools, they are asked to parallelly admit their child also in a coaching center. So double fees is being paid. And when the government colleges, government universities are slowly becoming self-financed, are introducing self-financed courses, they slowly get converted into self-financing colleges. It may be, the ownership may be with the union government, ownership may be with the state government, but in practice they are self-financing colleges. That means they get money from the fees collected from the students. And already in many universities the fee has been hiked, whether it is college, whether it is examination, whether it is evaluation fee for PhD, whether it is a tuition fee, almost all the fees are hiked, what the students are not able to pay. So NEP 2020 is disastrous. So in 1968, It was the first policy that has been introduced in India post-independence. We had certain reservations in 1968 policy. We opposed certain problematic portions in the Kothari recommendation and 1968 policy. But we did not say reject the policy. We saw that the policy will improve. In 1986, policy was implemented after the Union of India, the government of India started getting money from the World Bank. So we could see the difference between the 68 policy and 86 policy. 68 policy was when the nation did not borrow any money from the World Bank. We were able to take independent decisions. But once the Union of India, the government of India started taking the World Bank loan, the World Bank dictates that is to reduce the spending on social sector had an effect in 1986 policy. The 1986 policy was revised in 1992. It was called as the NEP, the National Policy on Education 1992. This period, that is from 1991, we saw liberalization, globalization and privatization marching ahead in a great speed. So we had reservation in 1992 policy. So we opposed 1992 policy. We opposed 86 policy, but we never said reject the national policy. We say reject NEP 2020 because NEP 2020 is a document that does not talk about education as education. It does not deal with education. It has two agenda. One, to build a Sanskritized monocultural nation. On other side, to hand over the entire education sector to the market, especially throwing open the education sector to international money, that is global financial capital. Both are disastrous. Disasters not only to the future of our citizen, it is disaster to the concept India. The concept India is unity in diversity. Concept India is to establish a society of equals, social equality, economic equality, political equality, justice for all in all spheres of life. NEP 2020 is against this vision of the constitution. That is why we say reject NEP 2020. Bring in an alternative policy. Bring in a policy that will ensure education cost-free at all levels. The state should take responsibility to provide education. The state governments in the respective states must have all powers, and Union of India should not usurp the powers of the state government. The draft Higher Education Commission of India that is being written now is most dangerous. Once this draft Higher Education Commission of India bill is introduced in the parliament, and if it becomes an act, then there will not be any state government. It will be reduced as every state will be reduced as an administrative units. We saw what happened to Jammu and Kashmir. Overnight, Jammu and Kashmir became a union territory. If we allow the Higher Education Commission of India draft to be returned and placed in the parliament and allow it to be enacted, then India, the entire India will have only a unitary form of government. You will not have a state government. There won't be any meaning for the word state government. States will be just an implementing agents of the Union of India. So NEP 2020 cannot be seen just as a document that talks about education. It doesn't talk about education. It talks about killing the spirit of India. Let us awake. Let us discuss in detail. Let us ensure that NEP 2020 is withdrawn and an alternative policy that provides a fully state-funded education right from school up to doctoral is in place. That is the dream of the freedom movement, and that dream has to be carried forward by the student movement at present. When looking at the history, we find Mussolini and Hitler wanted to create a cult that will accept their fascism and Nazism. They wanted ethnic superiority. They undertook ethnic cleansing. That is, they wanted the respective countries to belong to a particular ethnic group alone. And they wanted a nation which accepts such a policy. When you look at NEP 2020, it clearly aims at creating a culture. It wants to adopt a child at the age of 3, and before the child could complete the age of 18, it wants to inculcate the values of a particular group of people. The PM's 3 schools aims at creating a cult that will obey the dictates of a particular group, a particular religious belief, a particular language, particular culture. We need to understand that this is a great threat to the unity of India. When they talk about multiple exits and multiple entries, we should understand the child enters the school, a youth enters a college from different social background. A child or a youth needs a support system. Instead of providing such a support system, they say there will be multiple exits. When the child exits with certain credits, when the youth exits certain credits from a college or university, the credit will be valid only for a particular period. Before that particular period, the youth has to enter into the college, otherwise he cannot continue the same course. This is not being properly explained when they talk about multiple exit and multiple entry. And they say they will give a certificate at the end of the first year course. And how can this certificate be equivalent to a industrial training institute certificate, which is a trade certificate? Likewise, they say they will give a diploma at the end of the second year, the BA, BSc or BCom. The youth drops out of the school or college or university. Now this diploma that is going to be given at the end of the second year, BA, BSc, BCom, cannot be equivalent to a diploma that is given in a polytechnic college, which is a skilled study. Even after completion of third year, they say when you want to go to the fourth year, you need cumulative grade point with 7.5 score. You can go to the fourth year. If you do not have 7.5 score, you cannot go to the fourth year. But the entire course is called as 4-year undergraduate program. The basic question is, what will be the qualification for higher education or higher jobs? For Union Public Service Commission, what will be the qualification? 3-year degree or a 4-year degree? There is no clarity on that. So the NEP 2020 provides opportunity for exits. It never provides opportunity for completion of a course. Our aim is to ensure that a youth entering into college completes a course, and that is why we have the admission process. We have different kinds of support system based on social justice principle, and NEP 2020 doesn't care about the social justice principle. So in this aspect, we should understand the NEP 2020 aims not only to hand over education to commercial sector, commercialize the entire education, it also communalizes, and beyond that, it aims at creating a cult, and this cult will be a danger to an India which celebrates unity in diversity.